Hello students, today we are going to start chapter 4 of class 11, Landscape of the Soul, written by Nathalie Troberoy. She was wife of the Belgian ambassador to India who was interested in the history of art and archaeology. The theme of this chapter is very interesting, very fascinating. Actually, this chapter is a comparative study of two forms of art. One is Chinese and second one is European. European art is about reproducing an actual view, whereas Chinese art is about not creating a real landscape. European art is an artist's way to let viewers show exactly what he wants them to see in the landscape, whereas Chinese art is the artist's spiritual and inner voice where you can travel from any point and it lets the viewers create a path for their imagination. So, in this chapter, the writer tries to show the differences in the beauty and the perceptions of the painters. And to prove these points, she gives the examples. Now let us see what she is trying to tell us. Now, first one, a wonderful old tale is told about the painter Wu Dozi who lived in the 8th century. So the chapter begins with the story, and this story is related with the painter named Wu Dozi. That painter lived in 8th century and his last painting was a landscape, and he was assigned to decorate a palace wall by the Tang emperor. His last painting was a landscape commissioned, that means ordered specially, and he was ordered specially by Tang emperor Xuanzong to decorate a palace wall. The master had hidden his work behind a screen so only the emperor would see it. The painter had hidden his work behind the screen, so the only emperor would see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene of that landscape, that painting, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. So when the emperor looked at the painting, he admired many things into that painting, like discovering forest, high mountains, waterfalls, floating clouds, men on hilly paths, and birds in flight. Then, look, sir, said the painter. The painter then made him look at a cave. The painter, in this cave, at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit. Dwells means lives. So the painter made the emperor look at a cave in the painting which was at the foot of the mountain. The cave was situated at the foot of the mountain. And then he also declared that a spirit lives there in that cave. The painter clapped his hands and the entrance to the cave opened. So, after saying these words, after showing the cave in the painting, the painter clapped his hands and the entrance of the cave opened. Then, the inside is splendid. Splendid means very impressive, beyond anything words can convey. That means no words can describe it. Please let me show your majesty the way. So we can see the painter was so excited that he wanted the emperor not only to look at the outer beauty of the cave, but also to travel along with him to appreciate its inner beauty. He wants to show him the inner soul of his painting. That's why he invited him. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. But here, when the painter clapped his hands, the entrance of the cave opened, and then he let the emperor know how beautiful the inside of the cave was, and he just wanted to show him all these things. The painter entered the cave, and the entrance closed behind him. And before the astonished, that means surprised, emperor could move or utter a word, utter means speak a word, the painting had vanished, had disappeared from the wall. So before the greatly surprised emperor could say anything, could move from that place, the painting had disappeared from the wall. That means he was not able to enter in that painting, or into couldn't enter the cave, and the painting vanished, disappeared from the wall. Not a trace, not a sign, not any mark of Wu Dozi's brush was left, and the artist was never seen again in this world. After that, the painter was never seen again. There was not any trace of his brush even. Such stories played an important part in China's classical education. Classical education means education in ancient times. So, such type of stories played an important part in the education system of China. Now, the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. So, we can say such stories are found in these books also. Who are they are, we can say, the thinkers, the great thinkers or philosophers of China, Confucius and Zhuangzi. So their books are full of them, their books are full of such type of stories. They help the master, so these stories help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. So we can say these stories help the master to help and guide his followers in the right directions. Beyond the anecdote, anecdote means a short, interesting story of a real person. They are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. So here we can say these stories were considered to be deeply revealing of the spirit, just like the art. Now there is another story. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting. So there is one more story in contrast to the previous one, where the painter wouldn't paint the eye of a dragon. That means he had just prepared or made the painting of a dragon, but he wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon because he was fearful that if he would paint the eye of a dragon, it would look so real that it would fly out of the painting. So he feared that the dragon would fly out from the painting. With an old story from my native Flanders, Flanders means my native Flanders means we can say from the past, that I find most representative of Western paintings. So here we can say it was one of the stories from many others which came from a medieval country in Western Europe. The writer also wants to say that this is an example of Western painting where they give importance to the illusionistic appearance. It means that they want to feel that whatever they will draw is looking like real, right? Now move to the next. In 15th century, Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Matsys fell in love with the painter's daughter. The father wouldn't accept a son-in-law in such a profession. So during the 15th century in Antwerp, Antwerp is a city of northern Belgium, a master blacksmith called Quentin Matsys. So a master blacksmith was there named Quentin Matsys falls in love with the painter's daughter. Blacksmith means who deals with, or we can say who prepares the iron tools, etc., such type of things. So here, the father wouldn't accept a son-in-law in such a profession. So the father was not accepting their relationship because of his profession. Then, so Quentin sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such delicate realism that the master tried to swat it away before he realized what had happened. Panel means flat board on which a painting can be made. And master blacksmith, we can say skilled person in blacksmith trade. Sneaked means moved secretly. So when Quentin just realized this thing that the painter was not accepting the relationship, he sneaked into the painter's studio and then he painted a fly on his latest panel, on the latest, we can say board, drawing board, flat board on which a painting can be made. Then with such delicate realism means quality of the art that makes it seem real. So here he just that painting was so real that the master was even not able to realize this thing, that what had happened, and the master tried to sweat it away means hit it away. He just tried to move it away. He just tried to hit it, and before he realized what had happened, that means he was not able to realize this thing, that it was not a real fly, it was only the painting of a fly. Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. So we can say the blacksmith was accepted into the studio as a trainee, as a learner. Apprentice means a person taken to learn a skilled trade, or we can say he is a trainee or learner. So he was accepted as a trainee into his studio. Then he married his daughter, and then he became one of the famous painters of his age, of his time. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve: a perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. So, these two stories told above are trying to illustrate the form of art in two different reasons. In Europe, the art is perfect and like an illusion which resembles something real. And in Asia, or we can say in China, the art gives an essence of inner life and spirit. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance. So we have seen that in the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting, orders a painting to decorate the palace wall, and admires its outer beauty, outer appearance. But the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. It is only the artist who tells him about the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. So the emperor may rule over the territories, but the artist alone knows the way within. That means life has no meaning unless we undertake the inner or spiritual journey. Let me show the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious works of the universe. So when Wu Daozi said, "Let me show you the way," he meant the way to the inner meaning of art or the mystery of the universe. This is the spirit of Chinese painting. That means he just wants to show the inner beauty, the inner soul of his painting, the mysterious works of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. So we have seen that when the artist reached the caves, entered into the painting was gone, that it was disappeared from the wall, but the motive was fulfilled, that some work is beyond material appearance, and that purpose was fulfilled, the purpose of self satisfaction, the purpose of self fulfillment. Then a classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view as would a Western figurative painting. Figurative painting means a metaphoric representation of an art. So here we can see that the classical Chinese painting is not made with the real viewpoint, but it is a representation of the artist's thoughts. Whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it. So, the Western painting in Europe is a figurative art form. The European painter paints a landscape to show you a specific scene of this landscape, whereas the Chinese painter doesn't choose a real viewpoint. You can enter the painting from any point in Chinese paintings. So here, the Chinese painter doesn't choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, then back again in a leisurely movement. This is even more true in the case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowing, opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any form of painting. So, here, what the writer wants to say, that the European painter paints a landscape to show you a specific scene of the landscape, whereas the Chinese painter doesn't choose a real viewpoint. You can enter the painting from any point and can travel anywhere where your thoughts and imaginations take you. The Chinese artist wants you to travel by creating your own path, and then come out in a relaxed manner. That means in China, this mode of observing or seeing a painting is more enjoyable. A horizontal scroll is a form where one section of the painting is opened one by rolling it to move on to the other side. So it creates a dimension which is not practiced in any other form of art form, and it requires both mental and physical participation of the viewers. That is the dimension. Then it also requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what pace, at what speed he will travel through the painting. A participation which is physical as well as mental. The Chinese painter doesn't want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. So, here again, I wanted to just tell you this thing, that a Chinese painter wants the viewer to take the viewpoints to enter into his painting and travel in it. He wants our active participation, not only physical but also mental. But his landscape is not a copy of a real landscape. It is a representation of an inner reality, a spiritual and conceptual space, right? So that is the difference between the Chinese painting and European painting. European painting, they are more bothered about the exactness. They want their paintings to be real. They want to imitate something, to look it just like real. They don't want to move with the inner soul, we can say. They just want that the appearances should be appealing and real. That is the difference between Chinese painting and European painting. Up to here we will do. In the next video we will just continue with the next part of the chapter.